He made the submission in answer to a parliamentary question asked of him by Norton MP, Samuel Okujeto-Ablakwa, who wanted to know the legal justification for the banning of the mining equipment. According to him, apart from Article 36(9), which forms part of the direct principles of state policy, Article 41K provides that the exercise and enjoyment of rights and freedom is inseparable from the performance of duties and obligations, and accordingly, same shall be the duty of every citizen to protect the environment. The combined effect of the two provisions above is that citizens who seek the protection of the law have a duty to protect and safeguard the environment, and the state as a custodian of the environment has a duty to take measures necessary to ensure that the environment is protected for posterity. Says Mr. Speaker, one of such measures the state has adopted after trying several unsuccessful measures is to decommission and or demobilize equipment used in illegal mining so that the perpetrators of these heinous crimes do not go back to continue their illegality with the same equipment. Said while attention is focused on persons who mine without license, there are a lot of illegalities being perpetrated by persons who are holding valid mineral rights. These illegalities enumerated included mining in unauthorized areas, including red zones, drawing and using water without a requisite permit from the Water Resources Commission, amongst others. Noting that the Minerals and Mining Act, as amended, requires that equipment used for mining illegally are seized. Quote, he says, it's my submission, however, that this law contemplates equipment that are easily retrievable and which can conveniently be carried from their site to a safe place. Said to ensure that excavators are not impounded, the owners remove the control board at close of day and affix it the following day for work, making it difficult for the task force against the menace moving it, hence the resort to burning. Recommitting government's resolve to rid the country's water bodies of illegal mining, Mr. Jinapo said within the few months of implementing measures to tackle the menace, significant improvements never seen in the fight against galamsey since the 1980s have been made. Okay, I'm told that the video is ready now.
The instruction government has given to the security services of our country is to decommission and demobilize equipment, and I emphasize on that, all equipment which are used for mining illegally in the red zones, our forest reserves and our water bodies. That is the instruction of government. The security services then employ their own measures, whether it's through burning, it's through removing of parts, or what have you, to ensure that these equipments are demobilized and decommissioned so they don't have the opportunity to use them to perpetuate the illegality again. I also went at great length to establish, beginning from 1775, when Lord Mansfield, CJJ, gave a case in the Holman case to establish that a cause of action cannot arise out of an illegality. And our courts themselves in Ghana here, the Supreme Court itself, has also established, unequivocally and emphatically, that one cannot ground a cause of action arising out of an illegality. I concluded by saying that Article 36 of our national constitution bestows a sacred duty on the government of the day to take all measures necessary to protect the environment, and that the measures that have been undertaken by the government today are geared towards the satisfaction and giving effect to Article 36 of our constitution to ensure that the national environment is protected.
All right, so that's the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, the Honorable Samuel Abu Jinapo. Ojam, you heard the Minister.
Yes, I did, but if you permit me to do some preliminary comments that are not related to the subject matter.
Right. Okay.
Last week, after the encounter with Sami Jemfi here, I realized I started getting calls and messages, and then later when I saw those expressions on social media from people I consider to be social media misfits, to the effect that I had requested or written to the producer not to pair me with Sami Jemfi again. I just want to put it on record that nothing of that sort has happened or ever happened. And the truth of the matter is that I have no authority to choose who is my co-panelist, whether on Metro or elsewhere. It hasn't happened, and you, with all your experience, know that that's not true. So I just want to put that on record.
Okay.
I have not requested that my co-panelist, in this case, Sami Jemfi, should be changed.
Okay.
It hasn't happened.
Okay. Now, that same day, I got a few calls and some text messages from some friends that they had read on social media that this had happened, that you had requested not to be paired with Sami Gyamfi again. And initially, but for the persons who called me, I mean, I wouldn't have taken it serious, you know. So I then said that, but that's not possible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not possible, because I really can't find any basis, you know, for that. So I told them that, look, nothing of that nature has happened. The man has been going on programs and debating and making his position known for 4 decades. Yeah. He's been on Good Morning Ghana for 20 years. Has been paired with all manner of persons.
Thank you.
Never has any request been made about he wanting somebody or not wanting somebody. And look, the truth of the matter is that there are even people who, on this program, over the last 20 years, have even complained about what they think is even the quality, that they think that their level is above certain people who are sent to pair them. We have had instances like that in the last 20 years. Never have you complained or spoken about whoever you're paired with. Never. It's never ever happened on any occasion in the last 20 years.
Thank you.
And I told them, and I don't think that it will ever happen.
Yeah.
Amen. So let's just move on.
Thank you. That's enough. I've listened to my good friend, Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Sam Gyamfi. I think he's doing very well.
And let me just state this, just
Sure.
Incidentally, it's Phyllis Kwachiofosu who's going to be on the show. And it is because, according to my producer, Sami Gyamfi informed her last night that he will not be available today. Yeah. And that's why Felix is coming.
Thank you. Yeah. And that's important because of the coincidence. Somebody might think the rumor or whatever, the fabrication had some genuineness. But whatever it is, I think matter is settled. It's been dead and buried. But as I was saying, Mr. Gyamfi is doing well. I must give him that regard on a program like this. He's a big official Minister of State. And I like the question that was posed by Mr. Ablakwa. It shows the usefulness of question time within the legislature. But I would want to suggest, Randy, that I'm disappointed in the response, at least what we heard here. I have a tendency to want to get a Hansard or the parliamentary record and read each question that was asked and the answer that was given. As I sit here, I do not have the question that Ablakwa put, even though I think in principle it's good. And then I do not have the text of the minister's responses. But what we have watched on TV is also a sufficient basis for one to do some interrogation.
Okay, so this was I have the other paper here.
Oh, good.
So this was the question. Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa not on to ask the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources the legal and policy justification for the burning of excavators in the ongoing fight against illegal small-scale mining, Galamsey. So that was the question.
Yeah, and the minister tries to provide some legal and even constitutional rationalization.
So he says this. He starts with some preliminary things and says, now to the substantive question. Mr. Speaker, first of all, permit me to clarify the nature of the operation being carried out by the security services. What is being done is decommissioning or demobilization of the equipment used in destroying our forest reserves and water bodies to make them incapable of being used for such illegalities. Mr. Speaker, as I've indicated on several occasions, when a country is confronted with an extraordinary problem, extraordinary measures ought to be deployed. The use of heavy machinery such as excavators for illegal mining in and or near our forest reserves and water bodies is an extraordinary problem which requires the use of extraordinary measures to deal with. There's been a debate as to whether or not it is legal and prudent to demobilize or decommission these equipments which are being used to destroy our water bodies and forests. I'll now proceed to give the legal and policy justification for these measures. So then he went on to...
Yeah. See, Randy, I'll be honest with you. If you check the Mining Act, you check this Constitution, there is nowhere that you will find a legal and policy justification.
It says the combined effects of 36.9 and 41K.
Well, I'm not a lawyer. He's a lawyer. And we have an attorney general who is the legal advisor of government. They might have sat down and done some analysis and maybe arrived at this answer that was provided to Parliament. But I am unconvinced.
Both of us were on news file. You heard the Attorney General.
Yes.
We've heard the President of the Republic,
Yes.
who himself is a very senior lawyer. And then we've heard the Minister, who's also a lawyer.
Randy, they have no basis. You see, decommissioning and demobilization, is it interchangeable with burning of the excavators? Can it be captured in any law?
Well, if you had the Minister, he suggests that the order to the security agencies is to decommission and demobilize. In actualizing that, they use measures such as burning.
Lawless measures such as burning.
He didn't say lawless. Those are your words. Okay.
I'm saying so.
Okay.
You see, it's like shifting the line of responsibility relative to the decommissioning and the demobilization. He's shifting the burning, which he knows is problematic and lawless.
Interestingly, in his answer, he did not use burning. He kept using demobilization and decommissioning.
But we are talking of burning of an equipment, in this case, excavators. That's where the emphasis has been.
In fact, that was the question.
Oh, okay. So even the question captured
The burning.
Yes.
The
See,
question was
look,
whether it is founded in law and policy.
it is not founded in law, and it is not founded in any sound policy. If indeed it's a policy, and I can differentiate that, if it's a policy, one, we haven't seen it well communicated and articulated.
And the policy
in
must be
writing.
founded in law.
That's the point.
Yeah.
This is a constitutional governance, okay? And you've enacted an act, you've put an act in place. You can't go outside that framework and undertake measures that really is lawless. I nearly said mindless as well, but it is lawless. That's exactly the way I feel about this thing. Look, Randy, based on our experience, all these legislative instruments and pieces of legislation we've done is based on experience.
Yes.
That's why we keep amending in order to fit the new trends. So if indeed the experience has shown that there are extraordinary circumstances where we seize excavators and these excavators get missing, so there's something must be done about it, and you believe that demobilization and decommissioning could lead to burning by the security agencies, just go amend the law. That has always been my stand. Amend the law so that the measures that you are taking, you have outlined a policy. Go out there, demobilize and decommission. You've outlined a policy, let me admit that. Then the people go into the field and they then must use their own senses to undertake actions, some of which clearly don't fit the law. Who is responsible for that? It's the government. It's the ministry. You are responsible for the unlawful or lawless measures that are being taken in the field. But here we are, there's a shift of the line of responsibility, unfortunately, in my candid opinion, onto the security services who are in the field and are taking a policy decision by government. It's unfair, first of all. You see, look, the state shouldn't lose its moral authority. We are the state. The government is representing the state at a certain material moment in our history. You are executing what the law says you must do. If the state itself is seen as engaging in lawless actions, look, you lose your moral authority. And you give out a blank check for people to go out there and misbehave. I think that there's obvious, look, I think they've done some thinking, some rethinking. They've realized that that action in itself is illegal. It's unlawful. It's lawless. And having an opportunity triggered by a question in Parliament, there's an attempt to rationalize. It's inept. In my candid opinion.
Now, Kweku, the thing with governments and the ability to learn or not learn is playing up on this issue. Yeah. And I say so because when the president launched the fight against Galamsey in 2017, and the issue of seizure of equipment came up. One of the issues that was raised was that when you read the law is clear on who should have custody of these equipment.
Exactly.
And the fact that the law said it should be the police. We were told that the police doesn't have the capacity, they don't have the space. And therefore, although the law said it should be in the custody of the police, we prefer to use private individuals to keep custody of these things. On the program on Newsfile, and something which has become popular lately, I refer to an issue that you can refer to as judgment debt.
Yes, it is.
On the excavators that were seized by that particular task force, and put in the custody of those individuals. A company went to court. Government fought the case vigorously in court. Incidentally, a lot of the cases government cited to support itself were cited by the Lands and Natural Resources Minister in Parliament yesterday. The court ruled that government's case had no legs to stand on. In fact, we could not produce the excavators that were seized. On the basis of that, there is a judgment debt of over $15 million US.
Yeah.
Government failed to appeal the case. Judgment has been entered as a certificate of judgment. 15 point something million. And it is because the law told us how to take custody of the equipment. We decided to do otherwise. The otherwise could not produce the equipment. This country will have to pay over $15 million for that.
Yeah, these are the facts. And instead of bracing ourselves up to ensure that we do the right thing, we are seeking to rationalize. Look, they said seize the equipment, put it in the police custody. If you can't, the police doesn't have the capacity, and I don't even believe that, let me be honest with you.
Even if they don't have, Kweku,
Yes.
can't the state
secured,
can't the state go and secure a site
Exactement.
and put it in the hands of the police?
Exactement. The police then
Must you go and bring party people and say that they are
I hear you.
auctioneers? Now, where are the things? Who should pay for the $50 million?
That is the key point. Those people who were in charge of the seizure, those who had the custody, police and private people.
Yes.
Those, and in this specific case, the missing excavators, were there no human beings who were in charge? Who are they? Where are they? You see, we are not being fair to ourselves. This, we put some people in charge, right from the ministerial level to the last level. The law says when it goes to the police, now the case must go to court. If the case goes to court, the court then will give the orders that, look, this is seized based on the verdict. So send it to the minister. The minister has some, I think, 60 days or so to determine who to reallocate the thing to and then gazette it.
Yes.
Look, is this too difficult to do? If in any case, those things get missing, you go for the human beings, not the ghosts, who were in charge of the equipment. It's so simple. The equipment did not fly out of this jurisdiction. Certainly, they were in possession of some citizens who held positions of responsibility. And so they ought to pay a price for their criminal negligence or irresponsibility. It's as simple as that. We're not doing that. We've chosen a different option. And that different option comes with its own challenges in terms of the law. It's so unfair. I find it difficult to deal with some of these things. Look, the court, that judgment, in there, the judge even referred to an individual who was part and parcel of the interministerial committee's agencies to deal with the matter. And said, look here, as I'm dealing with this case, I'm aware that there's another case somewhere prosecuting this gentleman, for similar events. For the judge, that illustrated a very beautiful picture for him that, look, indeed, there is some criminal activity relative to the seizure. We should be bold enough to make these admissions and then seek out those who were responsible for the missing.
But because you see, every day when issues of judgment debt comes, the one case that everybody speaks and thinks about is the Woyome case.
Yes.
And you and I were serious participants in that particular issue.
Yes.
The people who sang, songs were composed and they sang those songs.
Yeah.
Today, about 90 million Ghana cedis is going to be paid from the state coffers to a company because equipment were seized. Human beings were in charge of those equipments. Yeah. Those equipments cannot be produced. And for that reason, the state has to. There's a judgment debt of about 90 million Ghana cedis. Yeah. And everybody is behaving as if nothing has happened. Yeah.
It's
what were we raving and raving about with respect to Woyome?
Yeah.
That a song was composed about it. Yeah. And today, there's 90 million to be paid to a company because people seize their equipments, put in the custody of people, the equipments cannot be found, and so we have to take 90 million Ghana cedis and give to this company, and people will walk free. Yeah. Look at the effort we went in with this Woyome thing. Yeah. How we went to track his assets and others. Yeah. The man hours we spent to try and auction his over that amount of money.
I agree with you. It makes making a case difficult. You understand? But it's the reality, and one has to admit and tell the minister, well, again, I'll be cautious. I would want to see the full complement of his answers. But the little we have heard here on the TV and what you've read in terms of the question, I think there was no answer really provided, in my candid opinion. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Let's move on. While we wait for Felix to join us, the disturbances in Ejura, and yesterday we showed the videos. I'm sure you've seen some of the videos. Sure. And all that, and the very popular one that showed the military man kneeling and aiming, and all that. We had a lot of talk. But yesterday there was a statement from the presidency signed by Ejura, who's the acting director of communications. And it says that the President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has instructed the Minister for the Interior, Honorable Ambrose Derry, MP, to conduct forthwith a public inquiry into the circumstances that led to the unfortunate occurrences of Tuesday, 29 June 2021. The Interior Minister is to provide a detailed report from the inquiry with recommendations for appropriate action within 10 days, that is by 9 July 2021, to President Akufo-Addo. The President is deeply saddened by the deaths of Ibrahim Mohammed, alias Kaka, Abdul Nasser Yusuf, and Murtala Mohammed. He extends sincere condolences to the families of the deceased and wishes the injured a speedy recovery. What was your initial? You were part of the Kumepreku demonstration.
Yeah, sure.
When you heard and saw the videos and pictures from Ejura, what came to mind?
Well, I didn't have to go back to reflect on Kumepreku to feel the outrage. To be honest with you, because Kumepreku is not the only incident in our history relative to demonstrations that people have been shot to death or for serious injuries. It's not. There have been many from Kumepreku throughout in the Fourth Republic to today. So I didn't really instinctively go back to Kumepreku. It is when I heard people making references to Kumepreku and things, and I said, okay, let me do a bit of a research. So I went back for my Kumepreku file and then scan through just to keep one alert if it comes to analysis. But instinctively, I was outraged. And I made this point yesterday on Kukuku. See, Randy, first of all, let's express our condolences to the bereaved families. But immediately, outrightly condemn the violence that happened across board, but with specific focus on the state actors, because I think they are trained to know how to handle such situations. The unruly youth, rowdy youth, who went out there in a spontaneous manner, and I want to admit it was spontaneous, were themselves in violation of the law, and some of their conduct was also illegal and unlawful. But that's not where I'm going to focus. I'm focusing on the state actors, in this case the police and the military, but more on the military. You see, I've asked questions, and I've been told yesterday, Kwame and Duncan, Kwame gave me some little information that the police requested formally, officially, the military's intervention. And they tried to give me the impression that it was done through the right procedures.
The police was helpless.
That's the impression given.
Wow.
Because you see, in terms of philosophy, in terms of even our security management, if there are indeed situations where the police's capability is below par relative to an incident, they can call in the military.
Yes.
In terms of the military could come in to help in internal security. It's done.
Yes.
But I'm not sure what we had in Ejura was to the level where military intervention was warranted. That's my opinion.
That's the question I was going to ask, that if what we saw, this youth, the Ashanti Regional Police will not have the capacity to deal with them, we have to call the military, then we are in big trouble.
Yes, I am prepared to insist, even though I don't have the full complement of all the circumstances and things. And some people are saying that, look, why are you jumping the gun? That's uncharacteristic of you and things. No, I'm very careful when it comes to these things. The military intervention, whoever authorized it, and I've been told it's the police that called them, was unwarranted. See, Randy, they are not trained and are not to be deployed for crowd control or route control. And what we see here, you are showing things, I don't think was at the level that warranted military intrusion. So those who even decided to invite the military or to request for military support, I think were wrong in terms of their determination.
I mean, this thing happening, and we are suggesting that the Ashanti Regional Police does not have the capacity to deal with this.
Yes, I disagree with anybody who suggests that, but that is being suggested. And of course, we are being told that wait for the investigations and all that. Fine, I'll wait. I have patience for that. But since it's a subject matter here, I'm expressing my feeling. I'm expressing the way I feel about these things, especially when indeed you see a military person kneeling down and taking aim. Now, of course, the video and the pictures are said that we don't see who he's aiming at, but it was in the same area location.
But if you see the level where the position of the weapon, that's like mid air. It wasn't like
yeah. That's a fact. So even though we don't see the target, we can safely assume, especially because there were fatalities subsequently.
So that's it. So you see him, you see the angle where the aim is. It's even below the vehicles.
Yes, I agree. And that's not professional. That's not how to control a rowdy or unruly crowd. Obviously out. But you see, the man is not trained for this job. And so here he comes. Maybe some stones and things were thrown at them. And that's, for them, enough provocation to unleash their counter-violence in this case. It's just not justifiable. I cannot justify that. Okay, so it is clear to me that something went wrong somewhere along the line. Yes, it's good the president has called for quick investigations, and so that at the end of the day, perhaps we'll be able to have a more informed reaction to some of these things. But I draw it to two lines, Randy. The other one, the first fatality, was murder, straightforward.
Yes.
I'm told the police are investigating that.
Yes.
Of course, but it is that that triggered this mass one.
Let me just ask you something quickly on that before you go on to what you want to say. What do you make of the viewpoint that there was intelligence failure leading to what happened? Because if you look at the incident and the commentary about the incident in the community, on social media, the intelligence agencies should have been in a position to have anticipated what happened.
See, there was anger and tension in the system relative to the community there. There's no doubt about that. You didn't even have to do intelligence gathering to know that. It's human feeling. Somebody's been murdered. All sorts of stories were around it. Some so because of his activities, social activities or involvement with Fix the Ghana agenda. Some say economic fighters. Whatever it is, there were multiplicity of reasons which were being pushed forward. In any case, anger and tension was in that community. They were going to have a burial, because of the Islamic thing. It means the burial was going to be very quick,
Yes.
fast.
Yes.
And so the tension and anger would not have dissipated by the time the burial service was going to be done. And when you have that, even in the procession to the cemetery itself, there will be anger and tension. Because one was not there, I've asked the questions. The police, what was their posture? That is when the military hadn't intervened. The police themselves, what was their posture as the people were going? We can see here to the cemetery, by all means. Were there any provocations? Even if there were provocations from the crowd, psychologically, the police would have to exercise extra restraint and patience and accommodate that anger and tension, especially when it hadn't gone physical. But you could hear voices, arguing, shouting, crying. All those things are human feelings that a trained police officer, relative to crowd control, knowing the circumstances that had occasioned this event, will exercise a little bit more extra restraint so that the thing can proceed. I do not know what happened relative between the police and the crowd, but it doesn't look as if it was too excessive. The police started using their water cannon and things. So something must have triggered. But Randy, still, whatever triggered the police to use their water cannon, I'm not too sure they were overwhelmed to the extent that they called in the military. And who gave the military, what were the rules of engagement? When they called for the military, I'm sure there should be a military officer in charge of that military detachment. What was the target? What was the purpose? What were they going to do? What were they asked to go and do? And so how were they going to handle the situation? That's why you have the gun pointing at some unknown target, as we see here. It cannot be defended. I may be prejudgmental, I may jumping the gun ahead of investigations, but it is just not right, especially when these things have happened many times, not just restricted to the Akufo-Addo administration, the era of this administration. I don't want to go too deep because sometimes it then makes you lose focus on the incident that is before us. But because it's also happened over a period, it may show that perhaps we are not learning our lessons. It may also show that perhaps we are not reorientating the security services. Perhaps we are not doing things that many recommendations over the years have asked us to do. So these things keep coming. I don't believe it will be the last time. I'm not being a pessimist. I'm being human. Even in advanced jurisdictions, we still have such things. But it doesn't mean that we should allow them to continue. Sometimes, Randy, it's because people are left unsanctioned. People are not punished. Apart from the fact that we don't provide the right training, recruitment policies and things are not properly done, we don't give the right equipment and things. No, it's all part of it. The intelligence failure you are talking about, as I've described it, that you didn't even need intelligence gathering.
Common sense could have
yes,
told you.
Could have even told you that this is the situation. I'm not prepared to speculate whether they had intelligence or not intelligence. After the first death, the police claimed it's intelligence that led them to the suspects. So, and I know police has intelligence directorate. Now, they do. Apart from the CID, we have a police intelligence directorate. I think it's Tabiri, Edward Tabiri, who is the head. So they certainly will have local branches. He's at the headquarters. No. So I don't have the full details, but what happened was avoidable. Avoidable tragedy. It ought not to have happened. And nobody should have called in the military. These are basics. I'm convinced about that.
Your group, Occupy Ghana, and speaking to this issue...
I'm an affiliate.
Then also even referred to the military invasion in court of Parliament. And also raised the issue of the military being called into that situation. You know, for something that if we needed any intervention at all, the police could have dealt with.
Yes, I condemn that particular incident. It was another outrage. I found it very outrageous, and I condemned it. And indeed, when the Minister of Defense and National Security and Interior went to Parliament during the vetting, the issues came up. I remember Kandapa making the point that the military high command had begun some investigations into that deployment of military into the chamber. I wasn't bothered about their presence in the prisons because there was a joint operation for that occasion, knowing the nature of the event. The president was going to be sworn in, the speaker was going to be sworn. It was an important day in our history, and you needed to reinforce security. You know, there's a police post in Parliament. Yes. But the soldiers were rightly brought in to assist. It is the invasion of the chambers that I thought was unwarranted and should not have happened. In any case, when they went in there, they left in an embarrassing manner. Yes. One, they didn't effect any operation. Two, they were booed out. It's not good for the image of that institution, which is a dignified institution. So again, recollecting that incident is legit. And linking it to the intrusion of the military here is legit. You can't blame anybody who does that recollection. Yeah.
We'll be back shortly.
Yeah, you pay something.
In Ghana and in Africa, there is only one place to look to get that luxurious design and decor for your offices and homes. Visit Jamila Home. We give you the climax of luxury wherever you find yourself. Presidential and executive office furniture, living room set, dining set, stunning mirrors, adorable wallpapers, lovely king and queen size beds, valuable antiques and antique goods, beautiful chandeliers and more. Into the bargain, we provide caring customer service, prompt delivery service, skilled and artistic full house design and decor services, and free decor ideas for your space. Our products and service is unparalleled, boasting of top-tier clients all over the globe. Jamila Home, home of first-class quality furniture, beautiful chandeliers, and antiques.
Logo the bottom. Where you say 80 local channels na mo hedo. As a picture see clear. E 5 times better. As other channels can go be sure hormone. So go dey mention mo tram rock na why. Oh, what a picture. What a picture. What do 8D plus decoder or multi TV and now restaurant agent Piao. Natural local channels now HD the here so better.
Star 879 hash.
Numbers from Kubo box and now the advert 80 channels now.
Get an HD Plus decoder from now till the 9th of August for just $89.99 Ghana cedis and enjoy 3 months free subscription. Enjoy all the excitement and live sports action in the HD Plus Air Bosso Feely promo. Promo lasts from 7 June to 9th August 2021. Visit hd-plus.com.gh or call 024-243-9872 for more info.
Half a nose for good things.
Right, welcome back to the show. If you just joined us, this is Good Morning Ghana live on Metro TV, brought to you in kind partnership with X Natural Mineral Water. With me on the show is the late Felix.
Welcome the late Phyllis.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. With profuse apologies. Profuse apologies. Yeah.
Abdul Malik is still here with me on the show. We're looking at the Ejura incident
And of course, the president's instruction to the Interior Minister to undertake a public inquiry and make recommendations for appropriate action within 10 days. That is by the 9th of July.
Sure, Randy. Thanks for the opportunity. Let me reiterate my apology to your viewers. Randy, there's no doubt that at least in the last 2 days or so, Ghanaians have shown righteous anger, extreme anger at the developments in Ejura. But when you probe deeper, you find that the anger is not just about Ejura. Because the truth of the matter is that it is really not unusual to have these incidents happen. Sometimes they can be genuine instances of overzealousness on the part of security officials. But what the anger really has been about is a consistent pattern of what appears to be impunity and recklessness on the part of the entire security architecture. It appears that in recent times, our security architecture has been handled in a manner that gives rise to these instances of abuse. Because really, to the extent that an activist had been killed, at least if the reports we have are anything to go by, because of his activism, any security setup worth its salt would anticipate a certain reaction by the colleagues of the slain individual. It is natural. So, in view of that anticipation, measures will be put in to diffuse tensions in order to ensure that things do not escalate beyond a certain point. So, a spontaneous demonstration arises after the burial of this individual, and security forces are called in to maintain law and order. And their first inclination was to fire live ammunition into the crowd, obviously with the intent of killing. And indeed, if you have observed the reports, at least one doctor was interviewed, and he confirmed that one of the victims had been shot at the back. This obviously was an individual fleeing from the scene. And if you watch the videos, it is clear that the people actually started fleeing upon seeing the security forces arriving. So, any security operative with the most minimum training would know that those circumstances do not occasion the use of lethal force, but it was used. In the process, 2 people have died, in addition to the gentleman who has been slain, making 3, and then others have been injured. I do not know the current state they are in, but I do pray that we do not lose any more lives as a result of this incident. And then this incident happens, and for hours, there's no indication from officialdom that they are either aware of it or that any firm actions will be taken. So people begin to pile pressure, call out the president, and I was actively involved in that. Before a day after, a third statement is issued, which does not offer much, by way of firm assurance that 1, we are going to get to the bottom of this matter, hold those responsible accountable, and more importantly, reform our security practices in order to avoid incidents like this. So the righteous anger that Ghanaians have shown stems from this concern that they have, this deep-seated concern that, as usual, this thing will pass without any serious action. And indeed, Randy, despite the persistent demands by sections of the Ghanaian public for the president to comment, indeed, they compared his reactions to incidents abroad where the burning of a medieval church in France attracted his attention. He issued a statement to commiserate. In fact, when the violent incidents erupted in Nigeria under the NSAS campaign, he was also on hand to offer commiserations and express his views on the matter and call for calm. Yet, an incident like this happens, involving the killing of 2 individuals, and the president says nothing. When the statement came, it was roundly rejected. Nobody seems to be placing any measure of confidence in this statement. So the conclusion that one can draw is that people have lost confidence in the president's ability to stamp his authority on anything or take any action on anything that happens in this country. And it is an informed position, Randy. It is an informed position. As I walked in, I heard Mr. Bakun recount the incidents in Parliament. Randy, look at the excuse that the security minister offered. Everybody knows that what he said was not true. That a brigadier general or some other officer in the army decided on his own volition to storm the parliamentary chamber because MPs were heckling each other. And in this our country, a brigadier general on his own volition, without recourse to any higher authority, can decide that he will march soldiers into the chamber of parliament on his own volition. That incident happens, and there has been no consequence for the so-called brigadier general. Of course, we know that it was untrue that any brigadier general was involved. I am certain that the soldiers were ordered in there by officials of the Akufo-Addo administration. It is the reason why nobody is being held accountable. At least let somebody in the government take responsibility and say that perhaps it may have been an overreaction, but he was genuinely concerned about security. That way, people will be honest. I'm sure the Ghanaian public may even understand. But a complete falsehood was told us that a brigadier general did this. The security minister actually promised before the appointment committee that there was going to be an investigation. And it's been 3 months, 4 months, if I'm not mistaken. Where is the outcome of that investigation? And I know for a fact that nothing of the sort will be done. Nothing will happen to those who masterminded this. Randy, before that incident, were some extrajudicial killings, that's how I call it, of persons who showed up at collation centers to observe collation. Soldiers gunned down about 7 or 8 people. Another person too was gunned down in Ablikuma Central over disagreements arising out of the collation of election results. Randy, the president of Ghana had opportunity on 2 occasions to address the country in Parliament during the State of the Nation address. He said nothing about those incidents, no commiseration and assurance that action will be taken. Nothing. It did not even strike him that as leader of the country, he needed to ensure some semblance of calm and responsibility. He said nothing. It was as if those people did not die. He could not care a hoot about the lives of these individuals, taken unlawfully, unjustly, prematurely by men of his own armed forces. He said nothing about it. True to form, there has been no investigation. If there has, nothing has been done about it. The last time I heard, there was talk about building some house for one of the victims. But those who engage in this dastardly killing are working as free men. No sanctions whatsoever. Now, the president issues a statement and says he has instructed the interior minister to hold a public inquiry. And the disdain with which this statement has been treated is telltale, Randy. We all watched the Ayawaso West Wagon violence. And I remember coming on your show and saying that in view of the overwhelming nature of the video evidence, there was no need for a commission of inquiry. And that if the president really was interested in acting, he could have acted on the basis of what he saw. But a commission was set up, manned by distinguished individuals of this country. They submitted the report, made specific recommendations that specific actions should be taken. Then the government that President Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia helm publicly defended the misconduct of security officials who were cited in that report. A hoodlum, an MPP hoodlum, who has been integrated into the security agencies, publicly attacks a member of parliament. A committee indicts him, recommends his prosecution. And the president tells us in the white paper that that gentleman was provoked, defending acts of aggression, unjustified aggression on the part of party hoodlums. The president defended that individual. There was a recommendation that Double should be prosecuted. Andy, it's been over a year, getting to 2 years. Where is that prosecution? There was a recommendation that Azugu should be removed from the police SWAT team. And it had to take the Caleb Kuda incident for Ghanaians to learn that actually nothing of the sort had been done. And because of the pressure, he was quickly shipped off to the IGP. Indeed, Colonel Ajiman the gentleman who was at the heart of the Kalekuda assault incident was purported to have been sanctioned by being removed from national security and sent back to army headquarters. Just a day or two after, he received promotion by being put in charge of the elite forces of the Ghana Armed Forces, the 64 regiments, the most elite force we have. So the commission's report basically was consigned to the dustbin. Government mounted a robust defense of the mayhem that took place at Ayo Asuweso. They showed absolutely no sensitivity or respect to the people of Ghana. They couldn't give a toss what you and I thought. And allowed the criminals who engaged in this action to walk free. And before then, right under the president's nose at the Flagstaff House. And every now and then I meet ASP Nanka Bruce. Anytime I meet him, I record that incident. There is glaring footage of criminal conduct on the part of MPP hoodlums at the Flagstaff House. The president did nothing. If for nothing at all, he should be concerned about the sanctity of his office. He did nothing. In the end, we were told that those who actually put out the footage were the ones who were held. And the gentleman who engaged in this dastardly assault of a uniformed police officer walked free. In between then, MPP hoodlums again go and attack a court after having attacked a security official. And what is interesting about that, Randy, is that the state deliberately let the people off the hook with a slap on the wrist by preferring charges that they knew would get very, very minimal punishment. And to cap it, the individuals who were involved in that act actually thanked the president publicly for coming to their aid when they got into trouble. So the president, who is supposed to be in charge of our security, who has sworn, who put in his manifesto that he will ensure our safety, himself engages in actions that undermine the very security that he's supposed to provide. The president has no difficulty integrating bandits, criminals, into our security agencies. He doesn't care a hoot about what you and I think. We want to form a SWAT team, one of the elite units we have, and we populate it with party hoodlums, people with doubtful records, no capacity, no training, no emotional intelligence, nothing. The only qualification is that they were hoodlums for the president when he was in opposition. And they get in there. Despite public demands and condemnation, nothing is done. They are still there. And it will not be long before they get into the news again for wrongdoing. And right to cap it all, only a few days ago, the National Security Minister is reported to have owned that operation that went to the Ashanti region to remove this UOP Ayensu Ado. And it's a matter of record that those who took part in that time were known members of the Delta Force. Only yesterday or the day before.
At the time that they went to act, were they national security
Mandy,
operatives?
I'm saying that I reject outright. Look, any leader who accepts this situation has no business being leader of this country. Our country, we are not, Randy, we are not a banana republic. Okay, we are not a banana. We are a serious country. We are a country that is 60 years old and above. To tell me that party hoodlums have a right in national security is an unacceptable situation. No leader should justify that.
Are you suggesting that 5 years or 6 years ago when
Randy,
you were in government,
if
you didn't
Randy,
have,
I'm telling you that we did not have Randy, we did not have terrorists. We did not, Randy, you see, we did not have terrorists in national security. If anybody is known to have engaged in the actions that these hoodlums engage, they will not find space in national security. That is a fact that can attest to. In any event, Randy, if, for purposes of argument, let us even assume that the situation was like that, and you have come to do it, these people have engaged in actions that call for you to take a second look at them and do nothing. You deserve absolute condemnation. No, and you see, Randy, we have been making excuses for President Akufo-Addo since his days in opposition. And that is why he keeps on doing what he is doing. I do not accept for a minute that Double and his likes have any place in Ghana's security setup. We are not a serious country one bit if we allow that. Randy, those boys who went to our West, when they got out of the car and you looked at their demeanor, do you feel comfortable as a citizen that these are the people manning our security outfits? And because of the excuses we make for him, he has continued to entrench this behavior. As opposition leader, he put together these bandits. People who were critical of him in his party were at the receiving end of these attacks. We saw how the MPP headquarters became a scene for bloodbaths, multiple bloodbaths. They went to lock up offices belonging to accredited party officials. And what was his reaction? He held a press conference to plead with them to open it. He actually brought mercenaries from elsewhere to train these bandits. And multiple attacks. Randy, I can count about 18 separate attacks. There was one incident in which Mr. Tokwashi, you know him,
yes,
a very staunch Dankwabuziaist.
The old man.
Yes. He was holding a press conference at Dansom and Ochoko also to express misgivings about President Akufo-Addo's, then candidate Akufo-Addo's leadership style. He was set upon by these same party hoodlums, and the press conference was disrupted. We made excuses for President Akufo-Addo then. We said, oh, these things predate him. Some even claimed that he was not the leader of the MPP, and so he could do nothing about that. And when the Hawks, you recall that incident that happened in Kumasi, when somebody was shot. Did you see the dispatch with which we acted as the NDC? We immediately insisted that the police should not tolerate any of those people anywhere near our programs. There were people within our party who expressed misgivings, but our leaders showed leadership. They showed that they were principled men, that they were concerned about the examples that they set for us. But what has President Akufo-Addo done? In one breath, he was claiming that he had passed legislation outlawing these kinds of activities. Then in another breath, he was integrating these hoodlums into national security. So there should be no excuse made for him that a similar situation existed in the past. No terrorist or bandit found his way into national security. Nobody who went to attack a court found his way into national security. Nobody who went to attack a security official found his way into national security under President Mahama. If they did that, they would not get in there. So the reason why Ghanaians are expressing outrage at these series of events, it is a nonchalance of the president, the aloofness, the pretension that he is not responsible for anything, and the disrespect, constant disrespect showed the people of Ghana, and the undermining of our security by he and his team, that is resulting in this extreme cynicism and doubt that people have about the actions that he has announced. And if you like, mark it anyway. Whether in the 9 days, any concrete actions will be taken on this matter. Nothing will happen.
Let's wait.
Randy, I am not prepared to wait.
Why?
The president has to surprise me. Right? Why? The man set up a commission.
What else could the president have done other than this?
The man set up a commission. They sat for weeks publicly. We all heard the testimony. They did a report. Emil Short, one of the most respectable men in our country, Professor Mensa Bonsu, very respectable jurist, the former IGP, they sat publicly. We all heard the testimony. The president swore heaven and earth that he will act. The report came. What action has been? Not one person has been held liable for this. The things that happened even under his nose in the Flagstaff House, he did nothing about. People were shot dead. At least let us assume that in Iowa West nobody died. People were shot dead in the wake of, they were shot dead, Randy. A 14-year-old girl was shot dead for doing nothing more than showing up at a collation center. The president has done nothing. He didn't even mention it in his speech. He didn't show empathy, sympathy, that he was concerned, he cared about these people. And we are being told that this thing that has been issued, that the interior minister should go and look into this matter. Leaders who are not even candid, they can't even tell the truth. The interior minister wants me to believe, the defense minister wants me to believe, the national security minister wants me to believe that a brigadier general on his own volition stormed parliament with his troops. And it was such a wonderful thing that nothing has been done to that brigadier general. And we expect that when the president issues a statement, we believe it. I don't believe it for 1 minute. He can surprise everybody by doing something. But I will not hold my breath, because I have seen enough since his days in opposition to know that he will do nothing. He does not care a hoot. Randy, even in his first term, he didn't care that Iowa West happened. It is not in the second term that he's going, that he has nothing to lose, that he will do anything. So I am deeply, deeply skeptical. Deeply skeptical. And if he wants us to believe that he will do something, there are already reports existing. Let him cause Double to be prosecuted today. That gentleman who slapped Sam John, let him put him before the courts today. Then we will believe that something will come out of this.
The white paper disagrees with the...
But exactly. So the president who agrees with the violence of the sort that took place at Ejura Square, how can you expect him to work on this one? He cannot. The posture is that he does not care. That is the impression he has given to people. And so when you see people outraged, expressing doubt, criticizing him sharply, it is because of this. And let us not joke with our country. What we are doing, you see, sometimes we the citizens too must take part of the flag. When a leader shows you, they say that when Abua and Kawa are unfair essential, to wait, it is the animal that threatens to bite you that will show you its teeth. The man had done enough in his first term to show that these things don't matter to him. And people went and gave him a second term. They didn't consider the fact that he had plucked feathers from a tortoise, and that if he lay hands on chicken, that chicken will be left with no feathers. They didn't consider that. They went to vote for him. In spite of everything that was said. And for about 10 years, people like myself have been we have been raising these issues. These days, you find people talking about fix the country. They are repeating the same things that we have been saying all this while. And yet, the man got a second term. In spite of all these things that have happened. Some of the things that have happened here, they have criminal implications, Randy. There's absolutely no justification that any serious country, can you envisage a situation, Randy, that in the US, this thing will happen without consequence? Can you envisage a situation where security officials are this reckless in the US and there will be no consequence? Why? When Donald Trump, he even stood on the platform and spoke and people stormed the Capitol. You saw the consequent action that took place. But here, everything is kosher. We make excuses for them. We accept that he is president. He may not. Some even claim that he was receiving briefing on this matter. Something that is as glaring as this. Commander-in-Chief. The very fact that even that gentleman was killed, Randy. The very fact that today somebody has spoken, and because of what he has been saying, an MC is alleged to have set goons on him. It's enough to have attracted attention. That's why I said alleged. But Randy, if you had a president who was concerned, and you see, we cannot discuss this matter without looking at the larger picture of what many people believe to be a high-handed approach to dissent in this country now. That is what is happening. There's a high-handed approach. There's heavy-handedness of the sort that you will expect to find with military governments. And it's been 26 years since Kumipepo, right? And Mr. Baku is here. I remember how we assailed Rawlings when those two individuals died. I won't hunger. I remember it very well. How he assailed. And rightly so. Well, he had the right to hold leadership accountable. 26 years down the line, the man who led that protest, who rode on the coattails of that tragedy, is the one superintending the killing of people who are protesting the murder of their colleague. So, as a country, we have made no progress. Almost 30 years down the line. No progress. A civilian government is competing feverishly with military administrations. I remember, I didn't meet a champion, but I have read accounts of similar how students will protest and they will be gunned down. That precipitated public angst against him. President Akufo-Addo was actively involved. Indeed, it is one of his claims to fame that he fought the Achampong government. What was he fighting the Achampong government about? Human rights violations and what he thought was unconstitutional behavior. Today, can he legitimately look back on those days and say that what is happening today under his tenure is acceptable? How do we hand over our country into the hands of people who treat us this way with such disdain and contempt? So the people of Ghana don't matter. If for nothing at all, it does not strike them that it was human beings who stood in queues to go and vote for them. Even if it is critics you don't care about. What about those who repose trust in you? Those who went to vote for you? You don't care about their sensibilities too? Do you need anybody to prompt you that when these things happen, you take action?
Have you heard from the police regarding your letter informing them of your intended demonstration on the 6th of July?
Well, I have not heard that from them. But even Randy, let us consider that too. It is impossible today to demonstrate in Ghana. Only last Sunday, 10,000 or 15,000 people went into the stadium in Accra, right? It was allowed. It was 10,000, but government sanctioned it. I doubt if any demonstration in Ghana today will garner 10,000 people. So 10,000 people can go and watch football. The president himself can attend funerals that thousands of people to attend. He is going on a road trip in Ghana. Thousands of school children are lined by the roads to receive him. Thousands of residents hail him. There's nothing wrong with it. Yet, young men and women who feel frustrated by happenings under him want to express themselves through demonstration. The very thing that the president lays claim to. One of the things they put on his CV is that he led many demonstrations, the most memorable of them being Kumepreku. Today, young men and women cannot demonstrate. When I spoke about
COVID.
Oh, Randy. So where was COVID when the president went to that funeral with Sir John's funeral? Where was COVID as the president went on the road in Ghana and had school children hailing him? Where was COVID when Has played Kotoko? And the reason why I use that, because it was sanctioned. It's not as if people acted illegally. It was sanctioned. And since then, there has been no adverse effect. The health officials thought that it was possible. So why can't people demonstrate in much more open spaces than their transport stadium? Why can't that happen? And this thing started right after the election. You remember that the NDC wanted to demonstrate. They put a perpetual injunction. A perpetual injunction, clearly at the behest of government. They don't want any form of dissent, any form of protest in these times. And COVID provides a convenient excuse, even as the president himself leads the charge in violating the very EIs that he's put in place. So let nobody take these things lightly. And I definitely do not look forward to anybody making excuses for the president. We have had too many incidents. Randy, if one or two incidents happen, if you go down our history, you will find instances of overzealousness on the part of policemen. I see Mr. Bako has a publication. Kumasi Police.
Preemptive.
No, it's not.
Why are you worried?
Kumasi, yeah, give it to me. Kumasi Police gunned down two demonstrators at the scene. Right? You know the reason why this did not raise any eyebrow. People know that this is nothing short of overzealousness.
Go on.
They know that there's no general climate. There's no general climate of the Kenyasi shooting. Oh, but this one has been dealt with actually.
Go on.
Demonstrations won't cause. Oh, but why? People expressing misgivings about why. Somebody has told people that if you go on demonstration,
we're talking of.
Which one? 3 demonstrations shot at office. So I'm saying that this is 2012. Everybody knows.
Many.
I'm saying why? Me.
From 20,000.
I went to a Bukuti demonstration in Tamale. Under President Kufuor, 4 people. They used a military helicopter to blow dust on us. President Mahama, there was a police commander who named him publicly that he was looking for him to beat him up. The president has a cousin, Daniel Furiata, who was beaten up at a CJA demonstration. We believe he did not recover till he died from those beatings. So, police excesses and infractions are well known. And I happened to be in the presence of London one day when Prince Charles and his wife Camilla were passing by. People heckled them. The police set on those people and beat them up. What we are talking about is an ingrained culture of impunity, spearheaded by leadership that does not happen to care, whose actions actually enhance those. It is the reason why there's people are up in arms. Ghanaians are not unreasonable people. So if these things happen and people did not raise eyebrows, it's because they knew that it was not a product of a general climate. What we have now is a general climate of lawlessness and impunity, which is enhanced by deliberate inaction by the commander-in-chief, the president himself. Indeed, that's the Nanka Bruce incident. Randy, how can the president ignore this? If this thing happened under President Mahama, I can assure you that those people will be in jail. For far less, people suffered consequence under President Mahama. Randy, somebody said she wanted to make, she will not fight somebody if she didn't have $1 million. She was dismissed within 24 hours. Somebody said, who said Chia? Randy, he was dismissed for that. Okay? People go and engage in assault in the full glare of the presidency. If for nothing at all, at least respect the office that the president occupies. They didn't do that. Indeed, I heard Mr. Baku one day say that it was a personal beef between the two. It doesn't matter what the cause was.
No.
You said that they had some disagreement with Mr. Nankabru some time back. The gentleman who did this.
Okay,
yes.
It's not me saying it. It is something that's documented in the court law.
Even if one has smashed somebody's wife, you do not have the right to do what these gentlemen did. And actually to breach security in the office of the president is even far worse. So to the extent that they had evidence of this and they did not act, it gave the clearest, and this happened on the first day that the president took office. Those who gave him the benefit of the doubt and said that perhaps he had just come in, so we needed time, were proven wrong. because subsequent events worse than this one received no attention. So Mr. Bako's equalization with these incidents, I don't think they will wash. The people of Ghana are fully aware.
Preemptive strike.
No, it's not preemptive strike. You see, and it is important that we don't belittle people's intelligence and take their sensibilities for granted. I can prove for you instances of police brutality under President Kufuor.
Of course.
I'm sure even if we go under President Koma,
we
will get some. But that is not what we are talking about.
Okay.
People understand exactly what the issues are. I have been a victim of police brutality. I won't hold it against President Kufuor. But when we have the climate that we have today, where the government itself is at the forefront of undermining our security by enrolling bandits and terrorists into national security and elsewhere, nobody can liken that situation to what we had in the past. That is not what was happening. And so I do not have any confidence in this statement that has been issued. My lack of confidence is very well grounded. And I believe every reasonable person listening to me would agree that there's a basis for the lack of confidence. Let the president show us that this time he means business. And then let him go back to all those incidents that have happened and take action, because they are even worse than this one. And those 8 people killed during the election, they deserve justice. If the president does not ensure that, he would have failed spectacularly. So let nobody trivialize the feelings of Ghanaians. There's widespread anger. In case Mr. Baku and his friends in government don't realize it, there's widespread anger. People who supported the president actively in the past are up in arms today because they have simply had enough of the degenerating and breakdown of our society because of this conduct. Otherwise, police aggression and overzealousness we can deal with. People can live with that. But it has happened at a time when there's a general breakdown in discipline, and it has been compounded by official complicity and a lack of care. Randy, with the greatest respect to the president, when you are elected, you don't become a fixture at your office. The president is an active individual, clothed with power. They don't call him commander-in-chief for ceremonial purposes. He is the ultimate in terms of, he is the #1 law enforcement officer. It is the reason why he is insulated from legal action whilst he is president. All that is done to ensure that he acts. But this president does not act. And the reason why he doesn't act is that often he has a vested interest in what has happened. That is what has happened. So I am not mincing words this morning, because I think the people of Ghana have simply had enough of this toying with their sensibilities.
Right. Yeah, interesting, but predictable, of course. And you cannot take away his right to make the kind of statements or comments he's making and the judgment he's arriving at. This is obvious, it's natural, coming from a political party like the NDC. But facts are facts. Randy, first and foremost, I'm sure Felix did not listen to my submissions on this matter. I've been very clear and very frank on the issues that we have discussed. Identified that we have a challenge as a nation and ought to deal with it. I think viewers will concede that that's what I've done. His attempt to over-politicize the issue sometimes redirects the focus of the discussion, and it creates problems. First of all, let me deal one by one, Randy. The Minister of Defense point in Parliament that the Brigadier General triggered the invasion of the chamber is not in dispute. The military detachment that was in Parliament was headed by an officer of the rank of Brigadier General. He's alive, and the armed forces deployed him there. The minister made a statement on record in the House of Parliament, not anywhere, in the House of Parliament, and the armed forces are aware of this disclosure or answer the minister gave. So it is not as if it was given in secret or secrecy, and so nobody knows it, and because of that perhaps the minister was actually misinforming or misleading the House. No. So, and he also added that the military high command is investigating the incident and promised Parliament that the report, if it's ready, will be brought. This brings to mind the members of Parliament, their responsibility. They could call the minister, ask questions. What is the status of the investigation? Is the report available? Can you make it available to Parliament? And Randy, it's very important because we all know, and I'm one of those who condemn that action. I've even done it here.
Yes.
There was an assault on the legislature in a way. So the legislature, self-interest, Randy, collective self-interest, instead of leaving this thing within the realm of propaganda or what do you call it, cold case of assault, you do what you must do as a member of Parliament or members of Parliament. And so I don't think the minister misinformed or misled the House. This was on record. And it's true to the Brigadier General was in charge of that detachment. And of course, the rank and file, that's the men, would not have moved in if they didn't have a signal from the Brigadier General. Of course, the talk is that the Marshal Department, all of them collaborated. Investigation will bring all these things out. But the armed forces that went into the chambers, that condemnable action, they definitely had a senior officer who was in charge of them at that material moment in Parliament. So that's not in dispute. When these things are put on record in the House of Parliament, it is not rumor. What we should do is to force the military, ask the minister to go to Parliament, provide answers as to the status, bring the report if it's available, or the military, if they are watching us, would now be minded that, look, we need to do something about these things. I'm okay with such matters. If it's taking too long and you are worried, say so. But don't create the impression that it didn't happen. It was a flight of a figment of the imagination of the minister. No, not on record in the House of Parliament. Then two, you see, the president has reacted. I was hearing people, oh, the president is quiet, the president is not talking. Even when it was 1 or 2 hours after the incident. I'm not talking the first incident, because that one, I don't see why the president should have reacted. The second leg, where the crowd went out, the military came in and fired, was an escalation, and obviously required some official response. The Minister of Information did the response on behalf of the president. The communications director issued a statement. My brothers is say, no, what is this? This is empty. People are not happy with it. People are, that's your opinion. There are people there who certainly think so. Oh, this is not sufficient. This is sufficient. Oh, that's no big deal. The president has reacted. You said hours. So, hours. He didn't even say days. He says hours. The president has, that's his own word. So if within hours, which is indefinite, because I don't know how many hours you are talking about, but obviously, it wasn't protracted in terms of days. So the president has reacted. You are cynical about that. What can the president do? What can anybody do? I can hear you. I can listen to you. But I will ignore it. Because the point is that the president has acted, has asked for investigations to be done. Whether we like it or not, that is the right course to proceed. So again, that's the political talk. I can understand. In this democracy, these things are allowed. Now, let's come to integrating party foot soldiers and what he calls bandits and terrorists. Again, those descriptions are his. I cannot challenge it. I leave it to him. But party foot soldiers, party activists, my goodness. He's suggesting it is peculiar to the Akufo-Addo administration. It's been with us all the time. Each administration that comes. And there are documents to prove that. I brought some here. Pictures. Some are people I know. And they had written petitions. Some of them were relocated to Abelemkpe, that there's a place at Abelemkpe, and they were complaining. But they were party footballers who were giving military training, how to shoot, for what purpose? Some were deployed to the Tamahabo and other places, government safe houses. They are all dead. They are party people. It's wrong. I'll be honest with you, and we've discussed this here, even today, and made the point about recruitment. The people you recruit, how we recruit. Look, as a patriot, as a Ghanaian, I think it's a phenomenon that is negative. It isn't as if all party people cannot have employment in national security or police or thing. No. But the way and manner we've gone about it over the period, not peculiar to the Akufo-Addo administration, and I'm prepared to insist on that.
On that point, don't you think there is a degeneration? And I will tell you why. And I'll just use this example. For the life of me today, I cannot appreciate how come we decided to depart from a convention in terms of how people are recruited. And here I'm not talking about national security, because I've never seen an advertisement for recruitment to national security. But at least the police, the prisons and all that, immigration and all that. Until we had reports, we saw pictures that look, there was recruitment going on. Nobody knew about it. And then the Minister of Interior then came to tell us that, oh, we found out that over the years, people buy forms, they apply, and many don't get. So we have decided that we will now enter into the database of people who had applied earlier and contact people in there and recruit them as such. And for all this period, we do not see this advertisement. There's a claim that there is a database of people who had applied earlier, so pre-2017. And that's the database which is used to recruit people. Meanwhile, we can see people who finish school after 2016 in the security agencies.
Yes,
and here I'm not even talking about national security. So this is the point. This is where I make the point of a degeneration.
Well, you are entitled to make that judgment based on the analysis you are making. I have to double check if what you refer to, which was 2017, 2018, because I recall that incident, explanation or whatever. I'm not sure if it is still what is happening. I need to double check. Things may have changed, but fair deal, that response came. That response was not solid enough, and you are right, some people still find their way in spite of the timelines. So that's not something I'm going to contest, because I'm already in principle in agreement with the point that the policy of recruitment, the content, the way we go about it is negative. I'm in principle in agreement with that. So I would not even bother challenging you on a specific line when it did happen. As to whether it's still happening is what I will double check. I hope you get my drift.
That's fine.
Yes. Now, so we are told, police overzealousness, police lack of professionalism. It's all part of the problem why we are here today. It didn't begin with Akufo-Addo administration. Look, Randy, you asked me a question about Kwame Praku.
Yes.
And I told you in honesty how I felt about it. I didn't even go there.
Right.
Okay? But Kwame Praku, is it exclusive to just Rawlings, or is the NDC as an entity? Is it? It's not just Rawlings. We're talking the NDC administration then. That's what it was. You can identify rows and things Rawlings said, which he justified it all along. But I'm saying that we are talking of the NDC. That is a party that gives birth to governments. And at that material time, it was the NDC government. It was an NDC government in office. After all, they still take credit for all the good things that administration did. So you cannot run away from it. But you see, as I said, Kwame Praku, you know those who did the shooting? People tend to forget. They were members of the 64 Infantry Battalion. They did the shooting. One of them was arrested by the police. What happened to him? Those who came out to attack the crowd were ACDRs. Who were they? They were an NGO formed by the NDC and its administration. All the patrons of the ACDRs were top members of government. Cecilia Johnson and the rest. Sam Garba and the rest. They were the top directors of the ACDRs. What happened to them? Some of them became even Council of State members. You elevated them. What happened to them? And then he did a preemptive strike. I wasn't going to go there. It was Felix himself who went that far. And then interestingly, he had the ability to cite my document, so retrieved it and made it use of it. You understand, Randy? This, according to Felix, was due to overzealousness. But human beings died. That's the key point. Professional misconduct or bad handling of crowd led to a shooting incident. A minister of state, and he looked at that and so he didn't mean anything. Yes, a minister of state, the reaction of the minister was that demonstrations won't construct roads. Was that a sensitive response? The minister of state then, for works and housing, when the police killed these two drivers, his response was that demonstrations won't construct roads. He was not sympathizing with the dead. The president of the day did not issue a statement on this. I'm talking lives. And this incident, as I indicated in my earlier response submission, had been happening for a long time. Randy, this thing when we were in school, I've forgotten how it was constructed. Little drops of
water makes a mighty ocean.
Culture of impunity. It begins that way. When these incidents happen and they are left unsanctioned or unpunished, over a long period of time, we come to deal with what we call a culture of impunity. I am not prepared to concede to any submission to the effect that these are just incidents due to police overzealousness and so let's forget. That isolate these ones from what is happening today. You know, it's unfair. It is not an objective approach. And you find no solutions when you do that. What happens then, we relegate this thing into the realm of propaganda to seek political capital. And we will never ever, trust me, that path will never bring solutions. It is political capital you seek. So sometimes personalize it, sometimes do it this way, do it that. You never will solve it. I know what I'm talking about because I've also experienced all that before. And I've been here. Okay? I've been here. And each time we will come back in 4 or 5 years' time, even if there's a change of government, and discuss some of these things still. There have been all sorts of committees of inquiries, the committee of inquiry, the police inquiry. Check the recommendations.
So, so what do you say to those? I hear you that if we make it look as if it's novel, it just started, it will not help in finding the solution. But what do you say to those who say that on the basis of what has happened in the past and the fact that we didn't take action, and we decried the fact that we didn't take action, it should not be recurring today? Because the past is there to guide us. The mistakes we made in the past is supposed to guide us. So if we lost opportunities in the past and we get opportunities today, we must not repeat the same mistakes in the past,
Randy,
and use that to justify what is happening today.
In principle, you are right. That is how you build societies. That's how you improve on societies. But when somebody who has had the opportunity to have also made changes is the one talking, you ask questions. Especially when that person is being selective, deliberately. That person's submissions and analysis is informed by a selective amnesia and opportunistic calculations. I cannot sit here, and I'm not talking of my brother as a person or alone here. I'm making a general statement. That's why we keep getting into that crossfire. See, an electoral defeat is not synonymous with perpetual injunction on recollection of your misdeeds. Because even when you are electorally defeated, you are out there talking, asking for the chance to come back, isn't it? And you actually highlight your achievements when you were in government. So it's fair game. Fair game. If what happened under you, we will look at how did you handle it. I made a point earlier that this incident will not be the last. I don't know if you remember, because that is also part of human nature. It is how we handle it. It's how we sanction, we punish, and then of course institutional reforms. What is the police like? What the security services like? Are we happy with the way they are today? Are we happy with the structure? Are we happy with the personnel, the way we recruit them? These are fundamental issues. I can sit here and make beautiful analysis.
Will any person, person who takes on the political history of the president and what he's been through with respect to demonstrations, security lapses and situations, whether overzealousness or unprofessionalism and everything, his participation, his utterances on all those issues with respect to his political life, and say that for these things to happen at a time when a person with a president's experience and political history is in charge finds the situation unacceptable, what would you say to that person?
But that's your verdict. The person who makes that verdict, I have no problem with the person. You are starting from a correct premise, this is the president, so and so and so. Your conclusion may be wrong when you think that the president is responsible for all those incidents. Perhaps you can ask the question, what action is the president taking to stem the tide?
That's exactly the point I'm making.
Yeah,
that because as we sit here, we've recounted some issues.
Yes.
So it's not as if it's the president's first 6 months or first 6 days.
Yes.
The incidents that have occurred. So because we keep speaking to the same issues that we spoke to previously about recruitment, about professionalism, about this, about that, all the things that we've spoken about today are things that have occurred in the past.
Yes.
So my question is, will a person who raises
the person who raises it is legitimate to raise those questions. I have no difficulty with it. But also, if the person is making a certain conclusion, judgment, I look at the person. Who is he? What is he? What has he been in Ghanaian political life as? Has he also had the opportunity to handle this thing? Does the person still have an aim of coming back to power? Is that not why he's making the statements he's making? And in the case, some of all these things were canvassed before the last election anyway, don't forget. And the people are those who provide a verdict. At the end of the day, that's how we judge. That's the kind of democracy we've given to ourselves. So you have the room and space to attack in terms of criticism, constructively or unconstructively. I don't have a problem with that. You have the opportunity to pass judgments, which is what my brother Felix has done here. He's written the president off completely, that he's a failure and all that. He's entitled to that verdict. Why would I worry myself with that? At the end of the day, I make a counter argument. I don't think the president has been a disaster. I think that he's faced challenges. You can say it's not perfect because there will be areas that clearly perhaps he could have done better. Look at the Galamsey thing we discussed. I don't side with the president. I don't side with government in terms of burning excavators. I don't side. And I've criticized it. Okay? A military invasion of parliament. I don't side with those who did that. Okay? And I've criticized it. So, yes. But I'm entitled to my verdict. Overall verdict. Look, he spoke about demonstrations that I'm the president, and it's part of the point you've underlined. The demonstration professional. We all are. We used to be among semi-retirement unless something else extraordinary happens.
So you and Kwesi are now consultants.
Yes, we've done it all before. Randy, people tend to forget. The Ghana police, and that's part of the subculture I detest, and somehow we've been fighting. This thing about demonstrations, you can't have it, we don't have the numbers, all those things. Right now, we've got some cover, the COVID cover to use. I have a little problem. Yesterday, I made a point that we should be more innovative. We should find ways and means, both organizers and the police, applying technology as well as some street action to allow some space for demonstrations. See, because by my nature, I'm totally uncomfortable with the no demonstration at all. And Felix makes a good point, the point about funerals. Look at the numbers, including my own mother's funeral. That was clear violation in terms of numbers. There's no doubt about it. Same with Sir John's. And the focus is on organizers, as far as I'm concerned, not on invitees or attendees. But he makes a good point. Stadium. You have this number, they say 25%, isn't it? Can go in there. People are seeing these things. People want a certain consistency. And yesterday I made a point, look, there should be room for some number of people to be allowed to demonstrate. Those people who are the organizers also can bring technology to bear on their campaign messages and spread the message. So I am open to opening up space for demonstrations. But you see, and the police misconduct of ex-party, which now they've been told to come on notice, even there are still problems. Let's be honest, we are challenged relative to that, and I am prepared to ask that, look, open up, let's do some reforms. In spite, it means also the law, the executive instruments and things can be modified, to allow. It's good for human nature Let them express themselves. Let them move out. So I'm not comfortable with this blanket no demonstration thing, being fair. But we tend to forget. Do you know that from April 2013 to September 2013, the police didn't allow demonstrations in Ghana?
Why?
Because of the election petition.
Okay.
Not COVID.
Okay.
8 solid months, April to September. No, that should be less than 8. April to September. Check. And I have the records here. Only one organization protested, Center for National Affairs. Only one, all my research, only one expressed displeasure that the police shouldn't do that, against the constitutions, against the Public Order Act, and nobody bothered. Because good sense, people thought that, look here, they say they can't deploy enough personnel. They are at the Supreme Court. There are other implications. It didn't make good sense to me, really. But we all decided that allow it to go. COVID is even bigger in terms of its risk level than election petition, even though some people would dispute that because of some intelligence and security estimates. But I don't want to go too deep into that. But my view is that we've applied the COVID thing, at least, kakra, quote unquote, we should open up. We should allow some demonstrations to take place. When the organizers are doing it in good faith, they and the police can decide, look, let's have about 100 or 200. A place like Independence Square, you can do picketing. Social distancing can be observed. The technology these days is powerful. Social media, those days we didn't have it that much. Today it's a powerful tool for mobilization. So you spread. And I've seen Metro. I see you sometimes you play some Fix the Country. I've been trying to ask, is it the station's own or sponsored?
No.
It's the station's own. Yes. What's wrong with that? Nothing, in principle. So the organizers of any movement, protest movement, could apply technology alongside some limited street action has to move, because COVID is going to be here another 2 or 3 years, for all you know. And you cannot issue a blanket, ban on that feeling of freedom of assembly. You can't. It's not right. It takes too long. You are suppressing the anger. So, especially when they see football matches, 10,000 people there. They see about 300-400 people there. Sir John's, thousands. Mine wasn't comparable to, but there were still breaches. When people see these things, it's difficult now to create a picture of consistency. The selectivity creates problems. So I've argued, and I did this argument yesterday, that we should be scientific, we should be creative, we should be imaginative, and open up the door, the window, for some limited demonstrations. But let's not create the impression that Akufo-Addo, the demonstration professional, during his time, he's closed the thing because of his personal wish. No, there are reasons for that. The reasons will be here for a long time. Let's encourage a discussion that will lead to some reforms. That is my attitude.
All right, we'll be back shortly.
The search for a reliable partner in dealing with the sale of U-turn buses, genuine spare parts, its repairs and maintenance at a highly effective workshop with remarkable speed. We also have available the sale of Camel car batteries, Weichai and Kia spare parts, Zonton coaches and light duty vehicles for everyday movement. Contact us on 020-000-0831 or 054-555-7500. You can also email us info@saautomobilegh.com or visit our website at www.saautomobilegh.com. SA Automobile, the pleasure of doing business with you is all ours.
Football pa and nothing a high sense as sponsor Euro 2020 and Edia Mauno. Nesa Suntina Yatiti TV so say who? Edia Mauno. A Hisense Hero 2020 TV Super Promo. Kahoe kwajo brand new Hisense TV and nebuo dafo. Pictures near clear na color near deep. Sound quality this so dear one it here. Hisense TV so dear entry power. About down one access you are. Akona utusa abrefo. Every 18th June, I confirm 11th July. A Hisense Hero 2020 TV Super Promo. Emma Refisa Hisense and Kwan Emma 5 years warranty. Hisense Hero 2020 TV Super Promo. Ekosu wa Hisense showrooms e wa Ghana for nanina. Kwa Judia na nsenya. Hisense everyday prices for everyday people. Hisense official sponsor at the Hero 2020.
Right, welcome back to the show. If you just joined us, this is Good Morning Ghana Live.
Is it challenging like I was a patron?
TV.
Because I have the list here.
With me on the show, I have Felix Kwachi Ufusu and Abdomali Kwekubako. The show is brought to you in kind partnership with X Natural.
You know, it is a kind of defense that Mr. Baku has mounted. That is emboldening this culture that we have with leadership. That does not seem to care because they believe that when these things happen, they can wiggle out of it through this kind of defense. There cannot be one citizen of Ghana today who can be happy about the current circumstance. And you cannot approach this subject by seeking to defend the actors involved. And when people wake up, they go and queue and they vote. They don't do so because they don't have anything to do with their time. They elect leaders and charge them with responsibility to govern, which also means that those leaders are required to act timeously, decisively, in instances where the peace and security of this country is threatened. Especially so when the elements contributing to this are within their control. Now, Mr. Wako sought to justify the partisan recruitment to the national security by saying that it has always been there. Randy, there is a gentleman who is a known MPP person. He used to be the deputy executive director of Dankwa Institute. His name has escaped me. Is this Kwastabra or something? I always confuse him with Herbert Krapper. Okay. There's another one. The name, unfortunately, he was the deputy director of BNI. I don't know whether he's still there, but he's the deputy director of BNI.
Yes, Atobra.
Yes. People raised issue about partisanship. But immediately his CV was put out. Indeed, there was indication that he had actually gone out to receive further training. Nobody questioned his capacity or whether or not his appointment will have any deleterious effect on our security. Because people appreciated that he may be partisan, but at least he has the capacity, the qualification. He meets a certain criteria. Why? We all know. We may not say it. The top echelons of our security services, they are politically aligned. Many of them are. We know it. I don't think Mr. Baku will dispute that.
Of course.
From the army to the police to all the... Indeed, we also know for a fact that if your connections are not deep, the likelihood of rising to a certain level is quite minimal. We know it. But we accept because we know that they come to the table with a set of skills that the nation may be in need of. The same cannot be said about these hoodlums. So, especially in instances where they have demonstrated a proclivity for violence, there's no way they have to be tolerated. That boy who slapped Sam George has no place. He cannot even be a watchman in anybody's house. He does not even have the temperament, the emotional intelligence to act as a security professional. Any president who does not see it, in my candid view, does not merit the mandate of the people. So Mr. Bako cannot excuse this with partisan recruit. Why? Only last week, the MP from Pohowasa also, he put out information that he had helped recruit 8 people. I recall that in 2008, one of the things that I held as a watching for was that he stood at the Infantima and said he had facilitated the recruitment of 200 people. Remember the issue about party police and all that. So everybody knows that party people get opportunity to go into security service. But we expect that they meet a certain minimum criteria. When they demonstrate a lack of aptitude and a tendency for violence, terrorism, I call it, they have no business there. If the president closes his eye to this, then he has become a source of insecurity. And nobody can defend this. Mr. Wakun, you cannot look at this and tell me that this individual is qualified to be in our security agencies. Double. When he was questioned at the Iowa West Commission, he said he was a phone seller. Not that there's anything wrong with selling phones. Let's say he was a businessman. He does not have the basic criteria or qualifications.
So they give them training.
2 weeks in map reading. And our elite force, SWAT team, that has to respond to emergency, pressing security needs. You need your best and brightest in those institutions, not party hoodlums. Randy, Delta Force elements who go to a court under President Mahama, did anybody invade the court? You go to a court, assault judges and people in court, free people standing trial, and people who belong to this group have found their way into national security. And Mr. Baku says that it is a long existing practice. It is not a long existing practice to recruit hoodlums into national security. Nobody can say that party people have not gotten into security agencies before. But never have we had this level of lowering of the standards. What President Akufo-Addo has done is an unprecedented bastardization of the standards. So the security agencies themselves have become a source of major insecurity. That is the problem we are having, and that is part of the reason why people are angry about what is happening. The issue, again, that he raises about the invasion of Parliament. Mr. Baku says he disagrees with the storming of Parliament. Yet, he accepts the cock and bull story that the defense chiefs are telling us. That the minister has gone to Parliament, and because it's on record, that he has said that a brigadier general did that, he accepts it, and we should go with it. Randy, the military is a highly regimented organization. Even brigadier generals take instructions. So the fact that they were on the premises of Parliament does not mean they will march into the chamber, and they know the implications of that. What they did that day amounts, in some instances, to an encroachment on democracy. And when they came under fire, it was because people knew that no brigadier general will on his own accord enter the chamber the way he did. Indeed, Mr. Bako perhaps things we forgotten. You could hear Dominic Little say in the video that they are coming, the soldiers are coming. It is in the video. And if you play it, this video you are playing, if you increase the volume, you will hear him say so. How did Dominic Little know that the brigadier general was bringing his troops? If it did not, indeed, did he not have capacity to stop it if he wanted to? So please, let nobody tell Hawk and Bull story. I am saying that what Mr. Dapa said before the appointments committee is a falsehood. I don't believe it one bit. Indeed, if it was not false, why has that brigadier general not been named? 1. 2, why has it not been held liable? The military high command has been holding investigations for what? 6 months. On the simple matter of determining who went to Parliament, it takes 6 months. And we are supposed to accept and believe this. Again, to highlight security breaches, what I call instances of overzealousness, and seek to use that to establish a trend of impunity, completely misses the point. Look, the people of Ghana are not unreasonable. They are not zombies. They are not dancers. So they know what they can hold leadership for and what can form part of the larger problem of perhaps unprofessional policing. So it is the reason why, in spite of all the headlines that he's produced, we did not hear this kind of uproar. Why, Randy, when 3 weeks ago, armed robbers attacked a police bullion, who fought President Akufo-Addo? Did anybody even mention his name? People were genuinely concerned, but nobody mentioned his name because they appreciated that this was a security incident. In any event, Randy, in any event, even if they did, President Akufo-Addo will thoroughly deserve that. Why? On page 159 of the manifesto that he drafted in 2016, I will read you one paragraph. He says this: Ghanaians are becoming increasingly concerned about their security due to the increasing levels of crime and lawlessness under the Mahama-led NDC government. Today, Ghanaians do not feel safe. The Mahama-led NDC government has failed the people of Ghana in terms of the security of the country and of its citizens. Our existing laws are largely not enforced, and when they are done selectively, often with much interference from the executive. The MPP government will secure peace and security for all Ghanaians. Under the MPP government, Ghanaians will feel safe on the streets and in their homes. Ghanaians will go about their daily business in the secure knowledge that their persons, properties, and lives are safe under an MPP government. Page 159 of the 2016 manifesto. So, assuming without admitting that they don't even have a hand in the propping up of terrorist elements in our security setup, even normal security breaches alone can be heaped at the doorstep of President Akufo-Addo because of this commitment he made. He blamed his predecessor for security breaches. So, if I stand on the rafters and accuse him of being responsible for this, I will be more than justified. But in this instance, he is contributing, I believe personally, by failing to stamp. Randy, I am mincing no words, and let nobody think that there comes a time when you don't have to tell the truth. I am mincing no words. President Akufo-Addo, if he wants this lawlessness to stop, can stop it. Nobody can get into national security at the displeasure of the president. So nobody should make excuses for him again. If he didn't want double in national security, he would not be there. Randy, I have been in government before. Even as a deputy minister, there were things I could stop. Let alone the president with all the power he has. He does not care to the extent that he has satisfied the MPP people. That is what is happening. So, even the moral authority alone, to stamp his authority on the security situation is lost because of his contribution to its undermining. And then you have security chiefs who can't even tell us the truth. A national security minister comes to appointments committee and says things that we all know cannot be true. Those who died at Techiman, how many times has the interior minister not assured us of investigations? Does it take 6 months to determine who shot a rifle? The military are so heavily regimented. Even who gave the order, you will know. Randy, ballistics test will tell you whose gun. Even if you examine the bullet wound and the trajectory, you can tell. It is not rocket science. We have the capacity to do it. If they wanted to do it within weeks, they would have unraveled who did what. At the very least, let people know what happened. You have covered it up because it was political opponents who died. You don't care. And when we say it, you say that in the past, police beat people. We have all been beaten by police people. Ama Benuado was set upon by Akufo-Addo and beaten. So, it is not the kind of thing we are talking about today. Again, this business about Kumipe. Randy, why? A society moves forward, don't we? And I mentioned Mr. Baku because I heard him. Those days, he used to have a program on Choice FM with Aladi Siddiq, the lady at the communications school in Legon, Professor Makwini or something. Yeah, Professor Makwini.
No, Ambassador.
Good.
Margaret Makwini.
Good. I heard them clearly. I heard what they said about Rawlings. It was not about the NDC government. And it was legitimate because Mr. Rawlings was the head of government. So the assumption is that he has capacity to stem that tide. They laid the blame at his doorstep and accused him of all manner of things. Today, the same thing happens, and he says we should not hold President Akufo-Addo responsible. Why? If ACDRs or commandos shoot people and they die, when soldiers kneel down and shoot people and they die, it's not the same. Have lives not been lost? It's not the same scenario. So why should President Akufo-Addo be absorbed? Why? President or President Rawlings, he can be blamed because he is head of state. When soldiers go and shoot people, but President Akufo-Addo should be absorbed. The problem should be traced to a culture of impunity which predates governments. But before President Rawlings became president, nobody had been killed on the streets of Ghana before. So let us be consistent. And I stress that we must stop making excuse for President Akufo-Addo and his leadership. Look, if 1 or 2 incidents have happened, everybody who is reasonable will know that these are one-off incidents that can be addressed. He has had opportunity to recently he launched a national security policy. Randy, what stopped him from drafting comprehensive measures to address this problem? All the recommendations that his own commission put out, why has he not implemented them? Why does he find it so difficult to sanction wrongdoers? Those boys who went to invade the court in Kumasi, not one of them have been arrested. Meanwhile, we know the leadership of the Delta Force. They go on air every day to praise him. They have actually been recruited into national security. It was possible for people to go to the Castle Osu and hold meetings that border on vigilantism. And we were told cock and bull stories again. A whole security installation that, like the castle, right? You cannot walk into the castle today unattended to. Yet people were able to go there. and hold meetings with a view to acting like vigilantes. People very, very close to power. And we are here pretending that this is a normal course of events. It is not the normal course of events. The fish rots from the head. And if we don't stop making excuses for leadership, there's no way that this thing is going to stop. The indication I'm getting from the Bako's submission that this thing won't stop today or it won't stop tomorrow. Because we will not hold the right people responsible. Me, Randy, I am on record to have engaged the leadership of our party. And I have stated it here that I do not subscribe to arming party supporters to provide security for anybody because it is a dangerous precedent. And I'm sure those concerns for myself and others were well received by our leadership. That is why we did something immediately about the Hawks. There are people who still disagree, but we have done it. At least we have demonstrated responsibility as a political party. But as for President Akufo-Addo, he could do it in opposition and get away with it, and come into government and repeat it, because there are people to defend him and absorb him of responsibility. So as for his presidency, he sees no evil, says no evil, and does no evil. When we all know what the problem is, if we want to change this thing, we will change it. Randy, if those people who went to shoot the people in Teshiman and elsewhere had been held liable, I am more than certain that those who went to Ejura 2 days ago would have been more cautious in their approach. But they know that nothing will happen. The MC for Ejura, what is he doing in office as I speak to you? The very idea that fingers were pointed at him was sufficient to compel a president who really cares to get him to step aside, at least pending investigations. Right. None of it has happened. Okay. And we are supposed to accept this. Okay. So I do not accept this. I am clear in my mind where blame lays. It is with the commander-in-chief. He has undermined our security because of partisanship, the vested interest he has in some of the things that are happening, and his complete lack of care, the complete abdication of duty and responsibility, and his unwillingness to do anything about anything. His unwillingness to punish wrongdoing is at the heart of what we are seeing. Right. If these things are done, everybody will know that when 1 or 2 infractions happen, he will not be blamed. But if he doesn't do it, he has to bear responsibility. So, rather, this statement, in finality, I will not urge any Ghanaian to hold his breath. The people who have been charged with responsibility have failed only recently to get to the bottom of even more serious infractions. Okay. I cannot retain confidence in them. Let them prove me wrong.
Right. Yeah, as I indicated earlier, my friend Felix is entitled to make a verdict on the president. I cannot challenge him on that because it's his right of expression to make a verdict. And I indicated that I also have the right to make a verdict. So having differences in opinion is not the basis that I'm defending. But let me deal one by one. See, this could be Preco reference he keeps on making and trying to twist what I said relative to Rawlings. Let me tell you, and these are the facts. Rawlings was not being blamed just because he was a head of state or commander-in-chief. The truth of the matter is that Mr. Rawlings publicly defended the action of the ACDRs and the soldiers who came out from the castle. And he did this at a June 4th rally at Mankesim, where he said that he asked them to go out because the police did not have sufficient capability and that they had information that people wanted to commit arson at the Mokola market. So Mr. Rawlings himself, personally, Randy, defended, justified, and rationalized the action and took responsibility for bringing them out. This is documented. I'm not speculating. Apart from that, get a copy of the police inquiry report. And I'm sad I'm going to mention this name because he's not around. He's dead. And he was a very close friend of mine. I'm sure you remember Niboy Ajayesika.
Yes.
Yes. He was in charge of the progressive voluntary organizations, part of which was the ACDRs. At the committee, he indicated why they rejected the police recommendation that they shouldn't demonstrate the same day. And that he said that they wanted to prove that the government was also popular. So he admitted that he, as head of the ACDRs and the PVOs, brought them out. This is what brought the political critique of the administration, the NDC administration led by Mr. Rawlings. There's a basis for that. Now, Randy, the manifesto he read is factual, it's record. I would advise my friend, in fact, entreat him rather. You should go and take the NDC manifestos. And this is not equalization. You should go and take it.
Yeah, but President is bound by his manifesto promise.
Am I arguing on that?
In any way, ours was rejected, right? It wasn't.
Felix, I was so quiet.
Ours was rejected.
No, I'm not talking of the one rejected.
Yeah, but the one that was the one that won, the person has a responsibility to vote for it. It's a small.
I hear you.
No problem.
Randy, your 2008 manifesto, the one that the electorate endorsed, go and read there. It's the same thing. With different words. You were also blaming Kufuor's administration for a period of insecurity in this country and assured Ghanaians that everything will be peaceful, law and order, everything under you. Did it happen? People died.
And President Akufo blamed us.
Yeah, so I'm saying that is why I have
so I blame him squarely. I
don't have a difficulty with that. Yes. You've sat here, you've blamed them, and you've passed judgment.
Yes.
Has anybody stopped you?
Absolutely.
No. So I don't have a difficulty with that. I'm only trying to tell you that your submission sometimes is driven by selective amnesia.
I'm not amnesia. I don't have amnesia.
No, not you. Look, your submission.
No, I don't take it offensively. Yes. No, not at all. It's not an offensive word to me.
Thank you.
The point is that I have recollected some.
Let me do this quickly. You know, on the break, I was on the phone.
Yes.
It was Mr. Sam Gaba.
Yes, he's a good friend of mine.
Yeah, who called me, and he said that somebody had told him that you had mentioned his name in your submission. Okay, so he says this. He says, "I'm persistent because Kweku Baku did indeed say on this program that I, together with Mrs. Cecilia Johnson, instigated cadres." That's what he was told. So let me read it. Instigated cadres to organize a counter demonstration against Kumipreku demonstrators. That is plainly false. And I, together with Guzitano, Chichu Puku, Peter Kodube, Ike Tiado, Emmanuel Kesu, and Pimpom Mario, issued a statement condemning the action of those who pressed some cadres of the ACDR to do the counter demonstration. I lost my job because of this. I was replaced by Ajay Boy Sekan. So Mr. Kweku Baku should check his facts and speak to the facts. Now, he said this to me, and I told him that I don't recall you saying this, making this allegation against him on the program. But I think that he believes whoever called him. Yes, he believes whoever called him. So he says that he's sorry to bother me again, but he's persistent because you indeed said on this program that he, together with Mrs. Cecilia Johnson, instigated cadres to organize a counter demonstration.
See, I mentioned the name a few moments ago. That was, as I said, he told the committee that they had to bring out the cadres because they wanted government to look popular. That is the name I've linked to anybody that could bring the cadres, did bring the cadres out. I mentioned Sam Gaba's name, that's a fact. Cecilia Johnson, that's a fact. I said they were patrons of the ACDR. That's the point I made. I didn't say he instigated. And I did, I recollect the statement they issued on that thing. Guzitando and I recollect, I have copies here. But I'm looking for the thing that I was referring to. Is here. If we have time, I'll show it to you. It's a Registrar General's department, that thing they do. If you register an NGO or a company. And Sam Gaba, if he's listening, he should deny what I'm saying. His name is there. All I said was that they were patrons. And they were top party members, weren't they? Who were patrons of that organization that came and attacked.
I think whoever called him
misinformed him. I'm looking for that. It's here. A few moments ago. It's an official document, and his name is there.
That's not even what he's speaking.
Thank you.
Yes, that's not what
Thank you.
I think that he was told that you said that he with Cecilia Johnson instigated the cadres to organize it.
No way. I would have said so if it was what happened. Apart from the fact that he's a friend. Yeah, he's a long-standing friend. I mean, not jokes. So I will not come here and lie about him. Somebody I consider a friend. It would be unfair. Yeah.
All right, okay. So we probably need to leave it here. We couldn't look at something, some more revelations from the
there's also another huge judgment debt.
Yeah, I've seen it. $68,584,623.
But fellas, are you happy?
And 37 cents.
I'm not happy because I remember that.
And we're supposed to pay 6.5% as interest from the 22nd of April 2019.
But you see,
£200,000 as legal fees, £153,108 pounds and 88 as arbitration costs. Our counterclaim has been dismissed. Once again, the law firm that represented us at arbitration, Amofa and Partners.
How much was the original, the way demanded?
I have to go through the.
So, but doesn't matter. Even if you pay $1,
I have to go through that.
And even if you pay $1,
no,
it is still a charge.
No, the
so
question is
whether
asked,
it was reviewed or not, is it material?
No, it is.
It's completely immaterial.
The question is asked in context.
Yes.
To show, did we defend or we
didn't defend? It's not about
because
defending.
there are some we don't defend.
No, we defended. We even made counterclaims.
Randy, it's not about defending. If you do the wrong thing, you go and defend, you will lose. So defending is not an excuse. It doesn't shield you from criticism.
Felix, it's not as simple as that. Take a look at Justice Apago's report.
I know there are fraudulently. There are some that people are involved, but if you do the wrong thing and you go and defend it, you don't get credit. It's as simple as that.
I have a pure judgment recently, but
I'm sure next week we'll have opportunity
that people will not.
My issue is that you see, when people have power, the way they exercise that power, especially in termination and revocation, which leads to these things.
Metro TV, insightful and inspiring moments.
Here on Metro TV and also on DSTV channel 277. In current affairs, we have the latest political and social news. The Business Bit brings you up the world of business, commodities, the stock and forex market. We also have the latest in the world of